Assalamu alaikum viewers. My name is Hakif Fiyaz Arningola, and as a part of Rehan AI teacher training course, I am here with our TED Talk review. Today, the TED Talk that I am going to review is titled Stop Teaching, Start Learning by Mariappan Jawaharial. I hope I pronounced that right. And now, before you think this is another talk criticizing teachers, let me assure you it is not. In fact, it's a talk that challenges something much deeper, our assumptions about what education really is. What is the biggest obstacle to learning? It is not the students, but the way we have designed teaching itself. So let's dive in and see what the presenter of this TED Talk has expressed about this concept. The presenter begins with a simple but powerful observation. For centuries, education has largely followed the same model. A teacher stands at the front, students sit in rows, knowledge flows in one direction, from the expert to the learner. This model made perfect sense hundreds of years ago when books were scarce and the teachers were the primary source of knowledge. But today, information is everywhere. A student carries more information inside a smartphone than entire libraries once contained. Yet many classrooms still operate as if information itself is the goal. And that's where the speaker asks a fascinating question. If knowledge is already available, what is the real role of a teacher? That question immediately shifts the conversation. What's the strongest idea in the talk is the distinction between teaching and learning. Teaching is something a teacher does, learning is something a student does. These sound similar, but they are actually very different. A teacher may explain a concept perfectly, student may take detailed notes. Everyone may leave the classroom believing a great lesson happened. But if students cannot apply the idea, question it, or use it to solve a problem, did learning really occur? The speaker argues that we often measure success, especially for a teacher, instead of success of learning. That's a profound difference. The presenter shares examples where students learn far more when they are encouraged to explore rather than simply receive answers. Instead of immediately explaining every concept, learners are challenged to investigate, discuss, experiment, and make mistakes. Those mistakes become part of learning rather than something to avoid. This reminds us that some of our deepest learning never came from someone giving us the answer. It came from our struggle with the problem ourselves. Think about learning like a ride of a bicycle. No amount of lectures can teach balance. Eventually, you have to get on a bicycle. You wobble, you fall, you adjust, and that's when true learning happens. One idea I particularly appreciated in this presentation is how naturally the speaker shifts the teacher's role. Instead of being the source of all answer, the teacher becomes a designer of learning experiences. This is subtle but a revolutionary change. The teachers don't disappear. The teachers become even more important. But the responsibilities change. Rather than filling students with information, teachers create situation where curiosity drives learning. That's a powerful difference. The presentation also highlights curiosity. Children are naturally curious. Anyone who has spent time with young children knows they are constantly asking questions. Why? How? What if? Yet somehow along the educational journey, many students stop asking questions. Instead, they began asking only one question. Will this come in the exam? This shifts should concern all of us because curiosity is the engine of lifelong learning. When curiosity disappears, learning just becomes memorization. Another aspect I found compelling was the speaker's calm and conversational presentation style. There are no dramatic claims, no flashy slides. Instead, he uses simple language, relatable examples, and thoughtful pauses that allow the audience to reflect. Sometimes the strongest presentations are not the loudest ones. They are the ones that quietly make us rethink something we have accepted for years. This TED Talk does exactly that. Now let's compare this philosophy with our conventional education. Traditionally, success often meant covering the syllabus, finishing chapters, completing homework, preparing students for exam. The classroom totally became teacher centered. Students just listened. Teachers spoke, and the assumption was simple. If I have taught it, they have learned it. But modern educational research tells us something different. Learning happens through participation, through discussion, through projects, through solving authentic problems, through collaboration, through reflection. In other words, students are a far more active member in good learning than they are in a passive learning. So, this doesn't mean lectures have no value. Lectures are still useful in introducing ideas, but lectures alone cannot build creativity, creative uh, thinking, communication, or problem solving. And these are exactly the skills today's world demands. So, after listening to this task, I could not help think about AI. Many people ask if AI can explain everything, what will teachers do? Interestingly, the presenter's message answers this question beautifully. If teaching only means delivering information, AI can already do much of that. But if teaching means inspiring curiosity, guiding discussions, asking better questions, building confidence, encouraging teamwork, providing mentorship, then teachers become far more valuable than ever. AI can deliver information, only great educators can inspire transformation. This is an important distinction. This talk also made me reflect on our own classrooms. In many schools and colleges, especially in our part of the world, education is still heavily exam driven. Students often memorize definitions without understanding them. Assignments become copy and paste exercises. Questions are rewarded for having one correct answer rather than encouraging multiple perspectives. Imagine if classrooms look different. Imagine students building projects, conducting investigations, presenting ideas, debating respectfully, using AI responsibly to explore concepts instead of just replacing their thinking. Learning would become something students experience rather than something they endure. Of course, changing education won't be easy. Teachers often face limitation of resources. They have large classrooms, strict curricula, time constraints, and assessment pressure. So, this TED talk should not be interpreted as criticism of teachers. Instead, it's an invitation to gradually shift from delivering lessons to creating learning opportunities. Even small changes matter. Asking one more open minded question, allowing students to discuss before answering, encouraging reflection. These small changes will eventually transform the classroom. So, if I can say, my biggest takeaway from this TED talk, firstly, was teaching does not automatically create learning. Secondly, curiosity is more valuable than memorization. Thirdly, teachers remain essential, but their greatest contribution is creating environments where students discover knowledge for themselves. And finally, in age of AI, information is abundant. The real value lies in helping learners think critically, ask meaningful questions, collaborate with others, and continue learning throughout their life. In conclusion, I believe the presenter offers a refreshing perspective that is especially relevant today. Education should not merely prepare students to pass exams. It should prepare them to solve problems they don't yet have answers to. For Pakistan and for many education systems around the world, this message is incredibly timely. If we can gradually move from classroom focused on memorization to classroom driven by curiosity, exploration, and meaningful learning, we won't just produce better students, we'll develop better thinkers, innovators, and responsible citizens. That was all about today's review. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I will be back with another review session. Until then, that's all from my side. Take care. Allah Hafiz.